Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of 3 parts for setting up the Project Management Office template in Smartsheet. If you recall, in the first session, I went through how to download the template set, and I covered the first handful of steps in here where we looked at the setup and customize. So we went through step 1, which is create a new workspace. Step 2, the project intake sheet form. Step 3, copy the project template folder. Step 4, copy the project ID. And step 5, cell link from the project intake sheet. What we're going to focus on during this session is customized project intake and portfolio. So we are going to focus on the next set of steps. Step 1, site and project categories. Step 2, the project intake form. Step 3, new project approval request. Step 4, project portfolio roll-up dashboard. Those are the 4 steps that we will focus on in this session. Our final session, session 3 out of 3, is going to focus on customizing at the project level. If you are just tuning in, please make sure that you watch part 1 of this series before diving right into this session. The best approach for going through this series is to go ahead and set up the PMO template, and you can pause this YouTube video as you go through and follow the actual steps. I am Kandis Porter, the founder and managing director of Effective Flow Connections. Thank you for following this channel. This channel focuses on all things project management. This is a more sophisticated use of Smartsheet where we are focusing on establishing a project management office, also known as a PMO. This would be used for managing multiple projects. Let's say you have a PMO either for your department or your entire organization. You can oversee all IT projects or all strategic level projects. We're going to talk about categories today, and I will dive in and give you some examples as we work through customizing the project intake and portfolio level. Step 1, site and project categories. I'm going to walk you through how we're going to modify 2 documents in the PMO template folder. The first one is the project intake sheet, and the second one is the portfolio metrics. What we are focusing on in this step is modifying the project categories so that they make sense to you and your organization. Then we are going to make sure that they align in the project intake sheet. Again, the project intake sheet, it's going to be something that is populated from a form. For example, if you have someone in the HR department that wants to start a new project, you may send them a link to a Smartsheet form and ask them to go in and enter all of the information that will show up in that form after it's submitted. So when we think of a project form, it is something that an end user, one of your customers, is going to use to get a project to move forward. We want to make sure that the categories that are dropped down in that form make sense to the individuals that will be filling it out. And then we want those to align in the portfolio metrics. Let's now walk through this together. I am going to start by going into the workspace where I stored the template set for the project management office, We walked through this in the first series. I named my workspace Awesome PMO. There are 3 different things that you're going to find in this workspace. The first thing is a portfolio level folder. The second one is a project level folder. And the third one is the project intake sheet. For this first step, click on the project intake sheet and look for the column that is called project category. It's the third one over. So we've got the project ID, the project name, and now project category. I am right-clicking on that, and I am editing the column properties. You will see that it's currently called Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3. We want this to make sense to the end users within your team or your department or your organization if they are filling out a project intake form. I am going to change the name of these to departments. The first one I'm going to call IT projects for information technology. The second, HR project for human resources. The third one I'm going to call finance project. Now you can customize these to anything that makes sense for you. Those are the 3 that I'm going to change for now. So instead of it saying category 1, category 2, category 3, it is now going to have a drop-down value that's either IT project, HR project, or finance project. Also, while I am in the project intake sheet, I am a bit of a perfectionist, and you will see that a lot of these are misaligned. And that is because they are centered for the first row, and then the second row, it is left aligned. I'm going to go ahead and select all of my columns. So I'm going to click on the first column, and I'm going to go all the way over to the far right-hand side. I'm going to scroll to the submission date. I am going to hold down my Shift key and then select submission date. Right now, all of the columns are selected. I'm going to go to the menu bar here where it says Align Cell Content, and I want to left align everything. That little arrow here, if you click on that, it's going to give me the option to left align, center, or right align. I want all of them to be left aligned. Now that I have left aligned everything so it looks cleaner, I need to take one more step. I need to change the drop downs for rows 2 and row 3 in here. So I need to change this where it says category 3. I now have 3 options: the IT project, HR project, finance project. I'm going to change this first one to finance project, and I'm going to change the second one to IT project. Now my project categories are aligned to the new dropdown that I just added in, and I'm going to save. We've updated our project categories to meet our own needs. This is going to look different for your organization than it does for mine. And we've left aligned everything so it looks super clean. Now we're going to go into the portfolio metrics form and update it accordingly. I am going to click my back arrow, and I want to go into the portfolio level folder. Click on portfolio level and click on portfolio metrics. We now want to ensure that our portfolio metrics document aligns with the project intake form document as far as the changes that we just made. I'm going to right click on category 1. So this column, I'm going to right click on it and edit column properties. I'm going to have this align by renaming this to IT project. I'm going to do the same for category 2. I'm going to call this HR project. And for category 3, finance project. I have renamed IT project, HR project, finance project. I need to do the exact same thing to row number 1, and you need to be very careful of spelling. We need to use the exact spelling for the column title and for row 1. The exact same spelling. They need to match here, and they need to match in the project intake form so that it pulls your metrics correctly. We have that updated now. I'm going to click Save. We have now completed step 1, site and project categories. Let's move on to step 2, the project intake form. If you are not familiar with forms, I have a separate YouTube video that covers all things on using forms. Again, they are a great tool when gathering information from end users or your customers. So this is someone that you need to gather information from. You can simply create a form and share a link with them, and they go through step by step. What we are going to focus on in this step 2, the project intake form, is customizing it for your needs. I am starting from the workspace here, and I'm clicking on project intake sheet. This is the same sheet that we were just working with, where we renamed the project categories to meet our needs. To get to the form, you want to click on Forms here in the upper left-hand corner and Manage Forms. Click on Project Intake Form. And the beautiful thing, you can customize this as much as you'd like. Put yourself in the shoes of the people that are going to be filling it out and make sure that you're really specific on what you want to get from them. This is called Project Intake Form. You can name it with a specific department if your project management office focuses on managing all of the projects within only one department. If it's for the entire organization, you could put your company name here. There's a lot of cool things that you can do. I'm just going to call this PMO Project Intake Form. And what I did was click on this, the title here, and then you can edit it over here on the right-hand side. You can edit the title of it and then the description. Use this form to submit your project request. Sometimes it's nice in the instructions if you have an email or something, if someone gets stuck. So I'm going to add instructions, email inquiry at Effective Flow Connections with questions as you complete this form. Make sure that you are saving as you go throughout and update this form. The save is in the upper right-hand corner. You can click on every single field, and it's going to give you options on the right-hand side for field settings. So project name, if you want to add any instructions here where it says help text, you can type instructions. Another cool thing, all of this information is pulling directly from the intake form sheet that we've been working with. You can actually change the name of a column and have that show up in the form that your end user is going to fill out. But in the actual sheet, it's going to show up as what you originally named it. For example, where it says project category, maybe I want it to say project category in the sheet that I'm working with in the PMO. However, I want it to say department for someone that will be filling this out. And so I'm going to change the name of it where it says label. I'm going to change that to department. And now the header is changed to department for anyone that will be filling this out. You can make any of these fields required so that someone must fill it out in order to submit the form by toggling on where it says required. You can also hide a specific field by toggling on hidden. I'm looking at this. I don't want to hide any of them, but I do want to make all of them required. And so I'm going to go through and make every single field required. And that's going to add a little red asterisk to it. Right now, project name is required and department is required. Make sure, again, you're saving along the way. And you're going to see me as I go through and make every single one of these required. Another field where I want to update what it's labeled with is PM time zone. We know what PM is, project manager. However, not everyone will probably know what that means, and that could be confusing for them. So project manager time zone is a bit more clear. That will ensure that that's what shows up in the form for the people filling it out. Also, where it says file attachments here, someone may not know what we want them to attach. So I'm going to make a note here, must attach approved project charter. Maybe that's part of the process within the organization where a charter must be approved before someone gets a link to this intake form. And so we want a copy of that so that it's attached. I'm going to click Save here. You can organize these forms so it looks nice and clean when someone goes to click on it by dragging in some dividers if you'd like, or adding a heading or description. And I can just click on this divider. Maybe I want a divider in between project sponsor and project manager. There's now going to be a divider there. It just helps separate or have different sections within the form. Do not delete any of these fields or do not delete anything in the form because, again, this is pulling directly from our project sheet that we're working with. Once you feel that you have this customized to your liking, you can actually take a peek at the preview where you open the form. And this is what it will look like when you provide the link to someone. And so I always like to go through and do a test form, make sure it looks nice and clean, and then it has all the instructions that I want. Again, put yourself in your end user's shoes as you go throughout. And I'm going to say this looks pretty good for now. We have now completed step 2, the project intake form. We are going to move on to step 3, new project approval request. In this step, we really get into automation, which I love. We need someone to approve the project when the intake form is submitted. And we don't want it to be manually routed. We're going to go into automation and make sure that it is assigned to the appropriate person, which is the project sponsor. And that way, this will be a seamless experience. Once someone submits the intake form, it will automatically route it and save us a step of manual work. I am starting back in the workspace, and I'm clicking on the project intake sheet so that we can make sure that the new project approval request goes to the appropriate person. From the project intake sheet, click on Automation, click on Manage Workflows. You will see that it has a 1, which means we already have one workflow established. When I click on that, Approve New Project comes up. That's the workflow that we want to edit. Take just a minute to look at the workflow when you get in here. Trigger when rows are added. Remember, a row is added every time someone submits a project intake form, your end users or your customers. So every time a row is added, that is the trigger that kicks off the automation. And what it does, it requests an approval and it sends to the contacts in a cell. Right now, it is being routed to the project sponsor. That's exactly who we want it to route to. And then it gives instructions. If approved by the project sponsor, it does one thing. If declined by a project sponsor, it does something else. It is set up so that the submitter, again, the end user or the customer, is notified when the project is either approved or declined, which is awesome. Again, this eliminates manual work for the project management office by automation. We want it to be really clear when it routes something to our project sponsors, what it is that we need them to do. That is why I want to customize the message. Where it says customize message here in blue, you can click on that. And we want to have a really clean subject line. For action, project approval request. You can customize this to anything that you want. I think that's a really clean subject line. For action, project approval request. When your project sponsor gets that, they're going to know that they need to do something. You can then give them instructions here. I'm going to make it really simple, but you can type anything that you want in the instructions. Please approve or decline this project. We're going to have all fields included in the message so that when they get an automated notification that they need to approve or decline something, they can see every single field. If you feel like that's overkill based on how you want to manage it within your team or organization, you can select specific fields, click the drop down, and then you can move through and select what you want to be included. Again, I'm going to keep it all fields, and I want to save this in the bottom right-hand corner. We have now completed step 3, new project approval request. Step 4, project portfolio roll-up dashboard. This is where we're going to get pretty fancy. The portfolio roll-up dashboard. A dashboard is intended to boil the important information down to what's necessary for some of your key stakeholders. People that may not need to be in the weeds of each of the projects may simply look at a dashboard. So we really want to customize this. I'm going to show you how to add a logo. I'm also going to show you how to add a link to the intake form. That's the first thing that I want to highlight, is that we need to go out and get a link to the project intake form. So let's start there. From the workspace, click on the project intake sheet, click on Forms, Manage Forms, PMO Project Intake Form, click on Share Form in the upper right-hand corner, and I'm going to get a copy of the link. So I'm going to click on Link. It's the middle option here where it says Share Form, and I'm going to click on Copy. We now have that saved on our clipboard, and we can move on to the next step. I am back in the workspace. Click on Portfolio Level and click on Project Management Office Portfolio Rollup. This is our dashboard. Again, it's intended to help key stakeholders see important information at a glance. They do not need to be in the weeds of each of the projects. And I'm going to start by renaming this to my company. I want this to be my company's portfolio dashboard, and I'm going to upload a company logo. Terminology-wise, every single piece of information that we have on here, it's called a widget that gets added to this. In order to make updates to the widgets, you're going to see this pencil in the upper right-hand corner where it says Edit Dashboard. You can click on that, and that's how you're going to make edits. Once I am in edit mode, I'm going to double-click where it says Project Management Office Portfolio. I'm going to add EFC in front of that for my company name, Effective Flow Connections. And everyone tends to know what PMO stands for. So I'm going to just shorten that, and we're going to call this EFC PMO Portfolio. Again, each one of these is called a widget, so don't let the word widget throw you off. clicking save here. You can upload your company logo here if you'd like. For the sake of time, I am just going to show you how to add the project intake form where it says replace widgets configure link with the form URL. That's the link that we copied before we came into this dashboard. Going to click the edit button, going to double click on this. You'll see that it is a web content link. Going to click change, and it's got a link in here. Highlight and then paste the link that we copied from the project intake form. Once you click apply and save, it now shows up with our customized project intake form. How beautiful is that? It's pretty amazing. I also want to retitle this, or you can just hide the title where it says replace widgets, configure link with the form URL. So I'm going to click on the pencil again. Anytime I want to update a widget, I'm going to click there and then double click. And you see it says title down below. Click on the little arrow, and where it says replace widgets configure link, you can customize that, or you can just hide it. So where it says show title, if you don't want a title there, you can toggle it off, or you could just say project intake form or anything that you want to customize it with. Again, click save. We've now added our project intake form link. Again, a dashboard is intended for stakeholders. People can submit the intake form right here, which is really cool. In order to share this entire dashboard, you can see in the upper right-hand corner where it says share. It gives you the option to invite collaborators. You can type emails in right here where it says invite collaborators, and then set the permissions accordingly. If you want someone to be an administrator, you can set that accordingly, an editor that can share, an editor that cannot share, a commenter, or a viewer. So based on the category of your stakeholder that you're going to be sharing this with, you can set those permissions accordingly. I always make sure that when I'm inviting someone that I customize the subject and then type a little message, and I like to be CC'd on it. So I check the CC myself so that I also get an email when this is sent to potential collaborators. Once you get this set up to your liking, you can go ahead and click Share Dashboard. I will not customize all of the dashboard, but please know that you can by editing each of the widgets with this little pencil in the upper right-hand corner. You can type a customized message that you want your stakeholders to see, where it says, welcome to PMO's portfolio dashboard. You can add in your email, or maybe you have a PMO email that several people check and work from. You can add that in here. You can explain with this help text what people are looking at if you think it could be confusing for people. If you have templates that you want people to use for project charter, for a statement of work, for pretty much anything, you can link them in here. And again, if you've shared this with people, they can go ahead and fill out the intake form directly on this dashboard, which is very handy. All of the fields that we made required, you see they have the little red asterisk here. And our departments are updated to the categories that we selected earlier in this video: IT project, HR project, finance project. We have now completed step 4, project portfolio roll-up dashboard. I hope that you are seeing the value of using Smartsheet templates. If you were to set up this project management office from scratch, it would take a lot of time and a lot of work. This is so handy that everything is already linked the way that it needs to be, and you have to go out and just customize it for your own use. This is the second video out of a 3-part series. And today we focused on customizing the project intake and portfolio level. Our first step that we covered was updating the site/project categories. The second step that we covered was the project intake form and customizing it. The third step was customizing the approval request, making sure that it is going to the right person. We currently have it set up as the project sponsor, and then we customized a message so that they know they need to take action when they receive the notification. Step 4, we looked at the project portfolio roll-up dashboard where we edited some of the widgets, and I showed you how to share it to your stakeholders. Again, you can customize different categories of stakeholders. So maybe some are view only and some are editors that can share. Make sure that you just think that through before you blast out a link to everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I, again, am Kandis Porter. If you have not subscribed to this project management focused channel, please do by clicking the little bell. I am going to share the third part of this series next, where we're going to focus on customizing the project level. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you next time.